scented skies, soaring to new heights and new understandings. The Butterfly Boy Chronicles continue. The Moon. The subject, the moon. Well, well, well. What do we know about the moon? Let me give you an understanding of the moon, and then I will give you the proofs of this understanding. The moon is HQ to the controllers of the masters of this realm, this plane, this area, this world. So let me give you what I have for you on the moon. Let's listen in.
The oldest recorded history comes from ancient Sumerian texts, and that's where we're first introduced to the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are believed to be 7 deities, also referred to as the 7 gods who decree. Their purpose was to determine the fate of mankind, and their stories mirror some that we find in Greek mythology. And like the Greek gods, the Anunnaki dwell in the heavens, but also interact with people and influence events here on Earth. Gods from polytheistic religions like the Anunnaki, the Greek gods, and the Roman gods served many purposes. They were used to...
What were the gods used for?
Natural phenomena like Zeus creating thunderstorms. Thor also served this role in Norse mythology. The gods provided comfort about the uncertainties of life and questions about mortality, the afterlife, and human suffering. Gods and their myths established social norms and values. Myths often included lessons about the virtues of honesty, courage, and wisdom, or the danger of hubris and deceit. Worshipping gods who represent these qualities creates a framework for social and moral order. Gods are part of the creation myth of many cultures, used to explain the origin of mankind. This was also true for the ancient Sumerians. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, written thousands of years ago, the Anunnaki are directly involved in the creation of humans.
In many myths and legends, the Anunnaki are directly involved in the creation of humans. The Anunnaki live on the moon. The moon is the home and ship, as you would call it, of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki is a male reptilian domination race. Their purpose is master slavery. Their culture is master slavery. Their behavior is carried out as master slavery. They create their slaves genetically and imbue them to places and imprison them in these places to serve them. A very macro idea of the micro prisoning system we have here on Earth right now and live within the prison system. These characters from the moon, from HQ, their headquarters, have been controlling the various populations on Earth for ages, for thousands of years, and genetically upgrading, downgrading, variant degrading them, molding the clay, molding the human species of the time, whether it's called Neanderthal, Paleontolic, werewolf, what do they call this guy, Sasquatch man. These folks, whether they're myths or legends, real or not, could be, maybe, genetic creations. That's not our focus. Our focus is the moon, because the moon is in your reality, in your life, every night, whether it's visible or not, full moon or new moon or somewhere in between. So the moon is very, very important to you because it affects you, it influences you directly in your life. I'm going to explain to you, once I let this gentleman finish, exactly how the moon influences and affects your life, right down to your calendar and your months, known as moons, and your Monday, known as Moon Day, after Sunday, the obvious, and Saturn Day prior to the day of the sun and the day of the moon. All these days are connected to your planets, inverted commas, areas around your realm, which I will show you in the next video on Earth, but this is on the moon. The moon was brought in to your enclosed atmosphere to observe the servants. The master's headquarters, observation station, is the moon for their beings, their creation, their servants in the realm. Let's get a little bit more proof.
However, the stories about the Anunnaki might not be myths. The stories might be history. Zechariah Sitchin, in his book The 12th Planet, claims the Anunnaki are actually aliens who visited Earth thousands of years ago from their home planet Nibiru. When they arrived, the deity called Enki added alien DNA to ancient man, and the result was us. The intention was to create a slave species to mine gold for the Anunnaki. The gold was refined and used in terraforming their home planet, which was suffering from a poisoned atmosphere. Now, this may sound like a far-fetched story to some, not to me, but this creation story shows up in other cultures as well. There's an ancient Zulu legend about two brothers named Wawani and Mpanku, who were from an alien race with scaly skin. Thousands of years ago, the brothers stole an egg from a fire dragon, emptied out the yolk until it was hollow, and then rolled it across the sky to Earth. That egg was the moon. Many ancient texts describe a time when the moon didn't exist, or at least it didn't exist here. Aristotle wrote about the Pelasgians, who lived in ancient Greece since the oldest days, at a time before the moon. Apollonius of Rhodes also talks about a time when the moon wasn't yet in the sky.
Here, folks, is a really, really important bit of information. And it's not just this bit of information. There are several bits of information that back this bit of information up. And much study, even the scientists today, say the moon is hollow, somewhat holographic, may be able to dematerialize and rematerialize, much like a kind of UFO phenomenon. please understand when I say UFO phenomenon, I do not mean alien craft, I mean military craft, high-tech craft, but unidentified flying objects, simply because those who identify them, the military, say they are unidentified. Remember, folks, the people who always clarify whether the UFOs are unidentified flying objects or not are the military, the government, the authority. Therefore, when they identify a craft as an unidentified flying object, that suits them just fine if it's their craft and they don't fucking want you to know about it, isn't it? Like a stealth bomber or something. I just need to plug my computer in. Be back on in a second. Oh. It's happening really live today. Alright, we got power again. Just to finish off the rest of the story. So folks, it's very plain and simple and very obvious to those of us who are watching and aware that the moon was towed into our atmosphere. So, when you ask how is that done, well, to come through the dome, which is an energy barrier, it's not crystal, it's not solid, it's energy. It's as powerful as an energy barrier is, or an energy weapon, which, if you know what a direct energy weapon is, that's super powerful. So think of that in a dome, and nothing's going through, because that super powerful laser in a dome form is right there, staying there, holding in the atmosphere. It's also known as the Van Allen's belt. So the energy dome, the Pope's hat, the Pontius Pilate, the Pontiff's hat, the energy dome, the top of the White House, all the circular tops of buildings in sort of Turkish buildings and Moorish buildings, and nowadays they're Moroccan buildings. All these round buildings are all the memory of the dome. It's all the truthful buildings. All the erect, straight, phallic buildings are just the domination, the male sexual domination code, culture that bred us and feeds us with this constant code, re-input, replay, send. It's constantly upgrading, inputting us with this malevolent sexual domination code, and you see it in the whole setup of the whole system, and coming down to those males who have seemingly lost control of whatever reasons. The system is designed in a male-dominant geometry from the outset. As you know, female geometry, feminine geometry is curvaceous, semicircular, circular, spherical. 3D circle, spherical, orbital, like an orb. Male geometry is straight-lined and angled, all variants of angles. This geometry you will see in every civilization, straight lines and angles using straight lines, which make squares in 3D cubes or boxes. And you could say a box is an apartment. And then there's several boxes on top of each other, there's several apartments. And that's what you have, a box reality on the block. Jenny on the block. So you have a block, that's a box, another box, and then all the street pattern is mainly boxes, unless it's something else of a higher geometry or a higher demonic geometry, meaning negatively used geometry. Not that geometry is demonic in itself, of course not, nor is energy, nor is anything. It's kind of like a weapon. A weapon is nothing in itself until some person picks it up and uses it, and then it becomes a real big issue. But that could be a tool as well. A hammer's very good for knocking in nails. Just try knocking it in with your fist. Ouch. But it can also be used to cleave somebody's head in, unfortunately. So there's no real relativity to blaming the tool or the weapon. The constant blame always falls with he who used the weapon, obviously. I hope that's obviously. It should be obviously. So getting back to the moon, folks, the moon is a hollow HQ for those who create genetic races, this one called humans, which you're a part of. And here's a little more on it.
In ages past, before the silver orb adorned night's somber shroud, Gaia stood alone. The tides lay still, untouched by Luna's grasp, and darkness reigned where moonlight never cast its tranquil spell. Oh, how the gods conspired to shape that radiant disk.
Greek historian Plutarch wrote about the Arcadians. They were a very ancient people who lived in Greece. Plutarch described them as a pre-lunar people. Roman poet Ovid also wrote about the Arcadians.
In Arcadia?
It's just before the Arcadians go for it. You just heard prior to that absolute proof of how the moon was brought here. Go back and replay that part later and you will see. It's at about 16.10 minutes.
Lush fields where Pan's flute sang, a truth lies hidden, nearly forgot by man. The Arcadians are said to have possessed their land before the birth of Zeus, and the folk is older than the moon.
And the folk is older than the moon.
Evidence of a sky with no moon has also been found on the other side of the world. In the ancient site of Tiwanaku in Bolivia, there are symbols that depict the moon coming into orbit. And this happened at a specific moment in time thousands of years ago, long before recorded history. According to the Zulu and other ancient cultures, the moon didn't form. The moon was built, and not built here. The Zulus say that the moon was built in another part of the galaxy by the alien race that Wawani and Mpanku came from. They built the moon as a monitoring station to keep an eye on us, the human race. But what kind of aliens are depicted in these old legends? They're not the small gray aliens. The aliens that built the moon are reptilian.
And there you have it, good folks. Excuse me. This is the introduction to a little story about the moon. Now, I'm going to bring it into a very real place where I always do, as you know, and thank you for bearing with me, and I hope that was interesting, but we're going to go real time, not ancient. We're going to go according to you, how it refers to you. This is very real, folks. A little bit of chocolate because that was tough. Folks, when you know the depths of suffering of humanity, and not just this humanity, this one, this realm, this experience of the realm through this body, but it's been going on a long time with different bodies and different people and different creations, right down to where 2,000 years ago this begins to relate to you. Prior to 2,000 years ago relates directly to you and constantly to you. And if you took away the fact that we had a BC AD, you would just have a constant timeline flowing backwards to 13,000 years at least of written, recorded history. But the fact that you have this fracture in time 2,000 years ago with a story about a man called Jesus Christ, Yeshua Mashiach, and whether you believe Jesus the Christ story is real or not, it's neither here nor there. What did happen is what's happening today. And just like the Nicola Bully case, Jesus Christ may have been crucified on that cross on Golgotha as a symbol of a destruction of the light, kind of like assassination today. Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Nelson Mandela. These people that spoke out, Joan of Arc. You know, whether these people have attachments to them or not, of political attachments or other things, these people spoke out. One thing they did was they stood up and spoke out. And a lot of them were murdered for it or assassinated, like Jesus, sacrificed, literally sacrificed. Whether it was a purposeful sacrifice by a greatly ascended master, in this case we're talking about Jesus Christ, or whether it was a human who was just completely devoted all the way to their suffering and death. What was attached to the story, the human story, was the astronomical story of the sun, the real sun, as in the light that nature does not exist without. The sun gives life to nature, all fauna and flora, animals and plants. We are part of the animal realm. Hence we breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide, and the plants, they breathe in our carbon dioxide and breathe out our oxygen for us. Literally, Mother Earth is our lungs, is our breath. The plants, the plant part of Mother Earth, the flora, is our breath. Fauna and flora, animals and plants, Mother Nature, run by the sun light, UV, ultraviolet light, shines down into the natural system called side flora and causes a chlorophyll reaction, and hence the juice and blood and life force of plants to grow. Similarly, in the animals, through the vitamin D process, without going deeply into it because I haven't studied it enough yet, the vitamins enter, vitamin D through UV enters the human body. And of course we have the benefits that need to be studied by self and others on vitamin D, and there's much study out there on that. And the benefits of vitamin D and UV light, obviously in moderation. Everything is in moderation, folks. We have ultraviolet light coming into the skin in moderation, otherwise we burn because it's too much. Too little, we anemic because it's too little, and the vitamin D process doesn't function. So we need a moderate portion of ultraviolet light, preferably daily. Preferably. Just like water, the next important aspect of our lives, as well as air. Perhaps air is the next important aspect of our lives. Too much oxygen and one hypoventilates. Too little oxygen and one hyperventilates. So when one is suffocating because they don't have enough oxygen, they are hyperventilating, breathing quickly in and out through the mouth. I don't want to even do it because I'm a nasal breather, but something like in and out through the mouth, and getting in too much oxygen. Too little oxygen, so they're gasping. They're gasping for oxygen. Gasping for oxygen, trying to draw oxygen in because they haven't got enough. The other side is hypoventilating, where they have too much oxygen in the system, so they have to try to get the oxygen out. This is when you see people put a brown bag over their breathing system, mouth and nose, and they breathe into the bag to build up a carbon dioxide atmosphere, so that they begin to breathe carbon dioxide to bring down the oxygen levels, and hence lower hypoventilation and over infiltration of oxygen into the system. Very much easier, the exact same realm or formula, very much easier to understand with water. Water, of course. Too little water and you dehydrate and die. Think of yourself in a desert for 3, 4, 5 days, no water, 6, 7, no water, as long as you can last, and you die. Supposedly. But think of yourself with too much water, i.e. underwater, drowning. It's the same water, isn't it? So everything needs to be in moderation. Please don't say air is good, oxygen is good, water is good, sunlight is good. No, it's good in moderation. Think about that. Sleep is good in moderation. Being awake is good in moderation. Eating is good in moderation. It all needs to be moderate. Why? Because you're in prison. And the limitations, the handcuffs of your imprisonment is as long as you can go without breathing, drinking, eating, sleeping. These are the shackles of your environment, your realm, your existence, your humanity. Sorry to say. You don't need to go to a prison. You are in prison. You're in prison in the prism. And that's no play on words. It's a dimensional factor. You're in the third dimension of your 5-dimensional options, your polyhedral options, and I'll explain this in a polyhedral video, which I better write down because otherwise I won't remember. And that's the second one I've promised you. The polyhedrons, ascension. No ladder. Okay, we'll show you that one. We'll do the video of that one. And when I remember what the other one was, I'll go back and see this and see what I promised you and write it down. Folks, you are in the prism, the 3D, third dimensional, two-dimensional triangle. You have a triangle, three-dimensionalize it, it's a prism. Interlock these two prisms and you get the star tetrahedron, the Star of David, the Israeli star, the Jewish star. In the third dimension, the Jewish star is a polyhedron of the third dimension called a tetrahedron. You are interlocked in the tetrahedron. This is your experience. The tetrahedron is two interlocking prisms. The idea is to expand through wisdom out of the prism and ascend up your polyhedronal ladder back to your full octagonal self, which will be shown in another video. But it relates directly to the moon. Now folks, let's relate the moon directly to you and what it means to you. From the moon, the control mechanism through male geometry seen in civilization across the world, across the realm, across the plane, civilization, buildings, cities, and their connective tissues, their nervous system, roads, rails, and air. This fungus imitating Earth's natural mushroom fungal system, this artificial inseminated system known as civilization, with all its concrete and boxes and blocks and squares and angles and male dominant geometry, is come to infest the earth, and I say that in the nicest of way, with us, its creation, to damage Mother Nature and serve its systems known as civilization, cities, and how they run. We have been enslaved to serve these cities, and some of us have got out of it, off-grid, rural, in the best way we can, escaped, free, whatever. But mostly, the majority have been brainwashed and programmed into servicing these cities for the masters, in a general sense. That's what we do. We're the servants, they're the masters. What Butterfly Boy wants to show you is exactly how they do that in your life. I want to bring this abstract reality of the dark side of the moon into reality, not particularly the beings, but their system, how it affects you. For instance, before the moon was ever brought here, there were no tides. The tides began with the moon. Where's the proof? The tides come in and go out. They ebb and they flow. They ebb and they flow at 6 hourly rotations. 6 hours in, 6 hours out. 6 hours in and 6 hours out. Scientists will tell you they can monitor that effect is directly due to the moon. The reason why is because the moon is pulsing on a 12-hour ratio, meaning it pulses out for 6 hours and it pulses in for 6 hours, which means it expulsions, explosions, expulsives, expels, puts out, and then retracts, implodes, impels, whatever else I said, comes into itself on a 6-hourly rotation. 6 hours out, 6 hours in, and you see it in your tides. That's because the moon is pulsing an electromagnetic pulse on a 6-hour in, 6-hour out, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6 rotation. And the electromagnetic pulse is affecting the most conductive source in the realm, which is water. It's superconductive. And it's getting affected. And so is the water in your body. The water in your body is full of cells. Every cell needs to be full of water. Otherwise it's called turgid. Otherwise it becomes dehydrated, a free radical, and is excreted out and a new cell is made. Every cell in the body functions, takes in nutrition through the membrane and expels toxins through the membrane only in the presence of water. Therefore, if every single thing from bone to skin, muscle included, is made of cells of water, then the human body is 100% water. Yes, because all the membranes and all the particles of all the cells are all water. Every single bit of everything that's made up in the body is water. Therefore, the body is 100% water. Now then, if the body is 100% water and the water of the ocean is being affected 6, 6, 6 on a 6-hourly rotation, then so is your bodily water being imploded and exploded. It's been pulled and pushed on a 6-hourly rotation. Think about that and how that affects you. Let's move to the left hand, your wrist, or a wrist watch. What does that move on? That also pulses on a 6-hourly rotation. 6, 6, 6, 6 is called the 12-hour clock. And those 6, 6, 6, 6 make up 12 and 12, because 6 and 6 is 12, and 6 and 6 is 12, and this continues 12, 12, 24, and that 6, 6, 6, 6, 6 continues forever. That's what you're in. Exactly. You're held in this rotation of 6, 6, 6, 6 like a hamster wheel. You're running in 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and sounds like sex, 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 sex. It's very interesting how close 6 is to sex, and the realm that you're running in is 6, 6, 6, 6, and the realm that you're running in is sex, 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 sex. There's some bigger picture going on here, folks. Keep looking, keep searching, keep understanding, keep seeking, and let me show you, and let me help you. So watch carefully. You see this? Let's bring it in a little closer. Let's swap sides. What I'm zooming you in on, and I won't take it away, so there's no rush. I think that's a good bit there. You are looking at the native calendar or Native American calendar or universal calendar or Aboriginal calendar, and they will all have slightly different names, but the point is, all the real people around the world, they know that that is the mathematics of a calendar called the moon calendar. And it's actually a sun calendar because it has always been here even before the moon. So let's refer to that as the sun calendar. And the one I'm showing you is this one. Folks, look carefully at this. Especially the maths. Notice that the maths is, can't read it upside down, so let's read what it says. 13 times 28. Just wanted to make sure. Equals 364. Now folks, let's stop there. Whoa, hold the press. Ladies and gentlemen, I just told you that this is the sun calendar of 13 times 28 days. You can see it in the moon because you have a full moon every 28 days and a new moon every 28 days. But that doesn't mean that that's not happening with the sun as well, but you just can't see it. You should feel it. You should be aware of it. You should know that this is the cycle of the sun, not the moon. And why storm? Why is that the cycle of the sun? Well, because it's the sun that makes it hot in summer. And it's the less sun that makes it hottish cold in autumn. And it's the lack of sun that makes it really cold in winter. And it's kind of the return of that sun that makes it hottish cold in spring. And it's that sun again that makes it really hot in summer. That's got nothing to do with the moon. It's that sun that makes the 4 seasons that are spoken about right here in the so-called moon cycle. It's a sun cycle, folks. We live in a sun world of light. A sun cycle. The ladies, your cycle, your period is a sun cycle of 28 days. Not a moon cycle. The sun gives you light and life as an animal, as a creature, as we are. Fauna and flora. We breathe in what the plants breathe out, like every other animal, including butterflies. You live on a sun cycle, ladies. The moon does not give you your life. Why do you see her as your goddess energy? The sun is the goddess energy. The sun is the giver of life to Mother Nature. The sun is the light and life of Mother Nature. The sun, the light and life of the plants and the animals, is one in the same. It's the cycle of nature. It's the system known as nature. Without the sun, the life, the plants and the animals cannot exist. So the sun and the plants and the animals are intrinsically connected. Therefore, it's the sun that gives you, as a female and male animal, human, animal in sheep's clothing. That worked well. Not on me, of course. I'm not a sheep. Did I have to say that? It's the sun. It's the sun. And you know what, folks? The sun is tired of all of its beautiful females who bathe in it in the sun time, in the summer, in their lovely bikinis and such like, thriving in the sunlight, looking so beautiful and brown, us males too, loving the energy and thanking the moon. Your cycles, your energy, your life force, it comes from the sun. You live 28 days because of the sun, not the moon. If you switched off the sun for just 3 days, you would know all about it. After 3 weeks of no sun, let's say 4 weeks, 28 days of no sun, I don't think your cycle, your menstrual cycle, would be important then, because you would be dead. It doesn't matter how much the moon shines. So why do you give your energy, your goddess energy, your feminine divine energy, to the headquarters of the reptilian race, the headquarters of your masters, the headquarters of your rulers? Why are you praising your masters in their moonular ship, enslaving you to moonths? But these ones, and I'm going to explain in a second, enslaving you to moon day. And let me show you what the problem is here, folks. You live by a 12-month calendar. Bear with me, ladies. Don't be upset. Listen in. We're going to change this up. If you want to know, and you want to know the truth, check it out. We live in a system for the last 2,000 years that has taught us and controlled us to understand that there are 365 days in a year, and that those 365 days in the year are accumulated by a 12-month calendar. Since Gregorius, Constantine, 345, somewhere around there, don't really mind about the dates, and if they're wrong, just correct them for yourselves. What I get across to people is the point. Not the dates, not the fact checks, just the truth. Look at the calculation. What we are holding here is your standard 12-month calendar, January to December. Let's just check that I'm showing you that. Yes, I am. So what I'm showing you quite clearly, folks, is in the 12-month calendar, do forgive me, it's got such a glare on it, you come up with a 13th month missing. So, just like I showed you before, the truth and the correct mathematics is 13 times 28 makes 364. You get 13 from 13 full moons of 28 days. So every 28 days there's a full moon, and that happens 13 times in a year, in 1 year. Well, 13 times 28 is 364 days, not 365 days. Let that sink in for a moment. So what's going wrong there? Why do we have a 365-day year when really 13 times 28, 13 full moons, 13 full moon cycles in 1 year is 364 days? And please don't believe the NASA quarter day blah 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 rubbish. Let me show you what's going on. What happened, just like it happened with your moon, and the reason why the moon creates the tides at 6666 and your time on your watch at 6666, the reason why the vibration and pulsation of this reality is set at 66666 will be divulged to you in 13 specific ways over these chronicles, but right now we're dealing with the moon and how the 666 plays out and why. So if you reduce the 13 cycle, the cycle of 13 full moons of 28 days each over one cycle called 1 year, if you delete one of the 28 days, so the 13th 28-day cycle is deleted, like the 13th number in a hotel of the room number, or the 13th chair in a plane or a train. Number 13, you will notice, has been systematically deleted over the time. Here we have 13, the 13th 28, the 13th month deleted. These 28 days are sprinkled amongst the 12 months or months, January to December. And what you come up with is days of 30 and 31, except for February, which is the only real month, Aquarius, the 28th day. And you come up with months of 30 and 31, 30 and 31, 30 and 31. That's that 28 days sprinkled to be hidden and change the cycle, the natural cycle of 13 months, which is really 13 suns, to 12 months. 6, 6, 6, 6. 12 is 6 by 6. 6 months and 6 months and 3 months and 3 months make 6 months. Where that's never was the natural cycle. The natural cycle is 13 months, not 12 months. But if you're watching carefully, you'll notice that the mathematics shows that there's 1 day aloof, because the mathematics of 13 times 28, 364 days, 13 full moon cycles of 28 days is 364 days. So even if you take the 28th day and sprinkle it away, why are you left with 1 day? Because if you go to these days that have been sprinkled away and you write them out, I think I've written them correctly over here. Right, just over here, you can see, I can't very well, but 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, 3 days. And if you calculate those up, you get 28 days, because that's the 28 days they took from here and sprinkled it away. Hid it, basically. But you will find you don't. You get 29 days. So if you take this calendar of 12 months, 12 months, and you add it up, all the days, 31, 30, 32, 28, 31, 30, 31, 30, sorry, there's no 32, 31, 30, you get 365. But we know that in a 13-month calendar, 13 times 28 is 364. So where does the added day come from? Why is there one more day in the 12-month calendar, an extra day every year, compared to the real 13-month calendar, the cycle of 13 times 28 making 364, not 365, which they're telling you this cycle, because this is a year. They're telling you every year is 365 days in this calendar, in the 12-month conspiracy manipulated calendar. Conspiracy nothing. It's a complete agenda. So where's the one day? Think about it. Just so you can look at it later. Pause and study. Okay. Where's the one day? And we're going to finish up briefly, and we'll go on with what we need to in a part 2, because it's nearly an hour. Where's the one day, folks? Well, since the Great Reset 2,000 years ago, every year for 2023 years, you've been told that a year is 365 days, keeping in mind that a year is a cycle that can be monitored in the sky to be 364 days. Meaning that you can monitor a moon taking 28 days from new to full 13 times before it starts again. And you can relate it with nature and the seasonal cycles to understand that it is happening and starting again. Meaning, you could start in spring and monitor the seeds blossoming and the moon cycles, which are the sun cycles, because that's why the seeds are blossoming. So let's call it what it is. You can monitor the sun cycles as through spring as the seeds blossom and grow, through summer as they grow bigger and harvest, through autumn as they die off, through winter as they go dormant, and through spring as they grow again. You can monitor that, and you can watch the sun cycles, and you can relate them to the virtual artificial reflection, the mirror reflection of the sun is the moon. It's the sun's reflection. It's the sun's shadow issue. It's got a lot of shadow work to do. So you can relate these sun cycles that run Mother Nature. So there's another agenda. It's not the moon cycles that run Mother Nature. You don't grow your seeds by the moon cycles. You grow them by the sun cycles. Why would you have a moon calendar? The moon doesn't grow your plants. The sun does. Be careful the spiritual agendas, folks. There's a lot of agendas and falsehood and scams out there in all fields. Let's get back to the truth. In the cycles of nature, the natural cycles which have been going on for thousands and thousands of years and you can do nothing about them, there are 28 days between a new and a full sun. And there are 13 cycles of that 28 days in a new and full sun. What you see in the light of a new and full moon, which is not the reflection of the sun, it's mimicking the sun. It's mirroring the sun. It's reflecting the sun by cloning the sun, by mimicking the sun, to purposely create what it has created, this calendar, and put you into a cycle of 6666, a controllable cycle, which we're going to deal with as we go through these Butterfly Chronicles. Instead of leaving you in your cycles of 13, in your octave, which is massive, folks, we're going to explain to you, I'm going to explain to you categorically how you have been distorted in time, thrown into System 12, locked into the prison of System 12, where you should be reflecting and relating in System 13. You should be living in the realms of System 13, in your natural cycles, and ascending and descending as wished, up the polyhedral ladder, up your dimensional and down your dimensional ladder. But you've been locked, like a hamster in a cage, and tricked into running for your master who locked you in the cage, instead of just sitting in the corner and going, fuck you. And the way your master tricked you is right here. They towed in the moon to imitate the sun and tell you that it's a reflection of the sun. The sun's shining on the moon and the moon is a reflection of the sun. No, the moon is an imitation of the sun and mimics the sun cycles to confuse you and allow you to break your own natural cycles, force you to move out of your natural cycles by using, firstly, this. One of the ways is the moon. Headquarters, control, the master's HQ, and from where they pulse your System 12 reality, from where they control you with System 12, as opposed to System 13. 13 times 28 sun cycles. They now give you 12 times 31, 32, 30, 28, whatever, this graph as your moon cycles, and tell all the woman, all the feminine divine, all the feminine aspect of consciousness and spirituality, that the intuitive power comes from the moon. Keeping in mind that's the same moon that is electromagnetic, which is a frequency, pulsing a 6-hourly electromagnetic pulse to the earth that's affecting the waters of the earth, the waters of the woman, the waters of the men, the waters of the plants and animals. All the water is being affected by the pulse of the moon instead of the pulse of the sun. Because the sun doesn't pulse. The sun shines a constant frequency that enhances the growth of Mother Nature, because that's its duty. The sun holds a constant harmonic frequency for the growth of all the creatures on the plane and in the realm, because it's part of the system of 13 of nature. The sun creates a harmonic cycle. The sun creates a harmonic cycle of 13 times 28, 364. 364 light and dark cycles, as we repeat the 364 light and dark cycles on the complete chromatic octave of music, 13 times 28. The 13 is the chromatic octave of music. And 28 is 4 times 7. It's the production of the flower of life. 7 is the seed, 14 is the fruit, 21 is the flower, 28 is the production, isn't it? It's what's next. Us, here we are, doing it. Let's keep it simple. That's for another video. Sun cycles, folks. We are sun beings. We live by the sun, for the sun. We should respect the sun, understand the sun. No need to worship anything, just to be understanding of it. You do as much respecting as you like of that sun. But definitely not the moon calendar, with the whole sun cycle extracted, plus 1 day added. So let's talk about the 1 day, folks. For the last 2,000 years, 1 day every year, instead of the year being allowed to be 364 days, 13 times 28, that cycle I just showed you, instead of it allowed to be its cycle, 1 day has been added, so you have been told that 365 days is the cycle. That's 1 day extra. Therefore, for every year, for 2023 years, 1 day has been added. Therefore, we are now 2023 days, 2023 days ahead of our natural cycle. Plus, every 4th year, a leap year was added. And therefore, another 500 days have been added over 2023 years. Another 505, let's say, days have been added, or 4 days have been added. So if you take 2023 days and 504 days, you get approximately 2,530 days. When you divide that by 364, a cycle, you find almost exactly 8 years, 7.9 something years, 8 years. Now, folks, what I'm telling you is that due to the addition of 1 day to every one of your natural cycles, that was 364 days, 364 days, 364 days, and then became 365 days, 365 days, 365 days. That's already put you 3 days ahead. You're 3 days out of time. Because every time you thought it was 364 days and you should start again, you had 1 day extra to go. So you started your next cycle late. 1 day late. So you were always 1 day late. So you are out of time. You are out of your natural cycle. You are out of your natural chromatic octave of music of 13. Your natural wavelength, your harmony, your vibe, your jive. You're out. And you're out by approximately 8 years. Now, what did the natural cycles tell us? We had it in the Mayan calendar, but the Mayan calendar is a universal calendar of natural cycles. So what were the natural cycles through the Mayan calendar telling us? That in 2012 we will have cataclysms. Nothing much happened in 2012. 8 years on, in 2020, I'm sure we all know what the cataclysm was. The genocide. World genocide. And nothing's looked the same since. Almost you could say 2020 was the 2012. Well, that would make sense when you understand how they've messed with time, like I've just explained to you. So, folks, 2020 was your 2012, basically. And that's not the important bit. The important bit is that I've just shared with you, under the title of The Moon and connecting the moon with the previous title of the video, Control. So, Moon Control to Major Tom is what I'm sharing with you. And that the control is coming directly from the moon at a pulse of 6666, affecting the waters of the earth, keeping in mind, and here's a great teaching, coming through me, not from me. We are 100% water. The atmosphere is never void of water, no matter how humid or dry. The atmosphere is full of water, vapor, perhaps even water plasma if need be, but it's never void of water and its coding. Where it's cold, there's ice, and that's never void of ice or snow. In fact, when it rains, the water is obvious in the atmosphere and palpable. The rain is there, and when it's not there, the vapor is there, the mist is there, and when it's not there, it's still there. If you just can't see it on a hot day, it's there. In the oceans, the water's there. In the lakes, in the rivers, what am I trying to say? It's all water. There is no separation between the water. We are water. The air is water. The water is water. The earth is water. It's all water. Think about it, folks. All vegetation, all plants are just full of water. All animals are full of water. All the water places on the earth, lakes, oceans, rivers, all water. You can go and look at how much water makes up the rocks. Think of ice. It's rock. And you can go and look at the constituents of rock, but they're pretty much like bone in the body. And scientists will prove to you your bones are made of water. So folks, when the Hermetic texts and the Essenes and the Gnostics and the wise ones tell you that you're probably living underwater, you're surely living in water. Whether there's a membrane separating us, making this water appear this way, whether there's water above the firmament, the dome, it's up to your imagination. But I can tell you what's inside the firmament is the moon and the sun. Inside the firmament is the moon and the sun. Perhaps two suns, but the sun. Perhaps the sun is a reflection. It's quite possible, seeing as though we're in a duality. But this is about the moon, and just the sun's come into it to prove that the cycles that the woman menstruate and live by and birth by and procreate by are sun cycles, because their babies grow by sunlight, not by moonlight. And they grow as humans through the vitamin D process of health by sunlight, not moonlight. And seeds germinate by sunlight, not moonlight. Nothing grows by moonlight. Just observe. At night, under the moonlight, the plants sleep. In the day, by the sunlight, the plants grow and thrive. The moonlight is death. The sunlight is growth. Folks, to end off, the moon is not the goddess energy. The moon is not the feminine of the masculine sun. The moon is an invader, an infiltrator, and holds the masters who rule upon you. The moon should not be honored, respected, or worshipped in any way whatsoever. Nor should the sun. But the sun should be purely understood and respected. And if you like, you take it as far as you like. How you want to behave towards the giver of all light and life. That sounds more like a goddess to me than any goddess that the moon could ever sound like. But we don't need gods and goddesses. We need wisdom. The sun is the giver of all life. Respect her the way you wish. She is part and participle of Mother Nature. She is the light. She is the life. She is the energy and the force of the Mother Nature, of fauna and flora of the system. They are one. The moon has nothing to do with anything here. The moon has nothing to do with Mother Nature. The moon is not Mother Nature. The moon is an invader. The moon is a control mechanism of 666. I've showed you how this control mechanism exists as 666 in 12, 12, 12. 6 months, 1 year, 12 months, 666. The cycles are there. And now it does not exist and is not possible in the true sun cycles of 13. 13 times 28, 364 days, the real natural cycles. Folks, this has been my pleasure. Me again, the butterfly boy, telling you the truth about the moon and the sun. And we will go into this further on different chronicles as we go through explaining to you System 12 that you're being dominated, invaded by, and System 13. System 13 being Mother Nature, the cycles, the natural cycles of Mother Nature, the system that was here first and has been here a long time, the feminine divine system, and the system of 12, the invading reptilian system coming directly to you from HQ, the moon. This has been Butterfly Boy, signing out.